Hi, and welcome to another TDA Talks as part of the Future Tech community, a 10-minute fireside Q&A with myself, Kim Wardle of TDA, the Tech Product and Design Talent Agency. And although placing top talent is our day job, we also love to give back to our communities. And today, I'm delighted to be joined by Andrey Nikishin, Senior Cloud Product Manager at DiffusionData. Hi, Andrey. I would love you to introduce yourself and if you could give us some insight into what you're seeing in the world of technology and AI for today.
Hello, Kim. I'm Andrey. I have 20 plus years of experience in different IT companies and mostly in cybersecurity area or software development area. And today I would like to talk more about two things. It's very fascinating about innovations and risks. You know, all of us loves innovations. I hope you remember the first time you saw the new iPhone or new iPad, or anything, something new, or solar panels or whatever. It brings a lot of different potentials for us, and it's fascinating actually. But together with the innovations, there is one thing goes hand in hand. It is a risk of using new technology. And innovators, we try to use the new technology as soon as possible and to bring it to the wider society. But in many cases, the innovation brings not only some positive stuff, but some risks, like generative AI or community-based open source software. That all of these are fascinating things, very good things. Yes, there are some risks associated with them.
Absolutely. And so what is your opinion on open source software?
Don't get me wrong, I love open source software. The open source software, that's an engine and locomotive and progress in the software development. And I worked closely with many software developers and software engineers, and in many cases, they, instead of writing new piece of code, they just reuse someone else's code. So open source, it's a nice thing, but there is one very significant risk associated with open source software. Usually, developers and maintainers of open source packages, they claim that open source got enhanced security because many eyes and many developers can review, check, and write the code and contribute the code to the open source. But the main problem here is that main majority of maintainers just behind the nicknames and pseudonyms and something like that. And usually no one check the background of the maintainers, and they can get the credibility based on their previous work. So they get credibility, gain some trust, and start to maintain into the main contributors. And the recent incident with the shows that very clear. So one, let's say, not very honest maintainer get the trust with the software development, became a main contributor to this utility, and embed the bad code, okay, Trojan horse or a backdoor into this code. And that could be very minor incident, but exec utility uses in a very in variety of Linux distributive as a kind of main component, and that backdoor opens to malfactor ability to control all of these machines with the Linux. And that is the problem. I'm not against the open source software, but we should rethink our approach and risk management approach to the open source software. We should also take into account such a risk as maybe potential backdoor and open source packages. Should we use it or should we not use it? It's based on risk management.
Absolutely. And that's really interesting. But what about Gen AI? What's your thoughts on that?
I love Gen AI. I use ChatGPT almost every day for various tasks. But again, on the other hand, that's a very good thing with a lot of potentials. It could help us to solve many problems, to find the cure against cancer, for example. A lot of positive things. But again, risks. we don't know what kind of data used in order to train a large language model of a Gen AI. And the recent example of one very famous company, which product suggested to use a glue in order for pizza, in order to prevent slippering of a cheese from the pizza. That's a very kind of very good example of the risk associated with Gen AI. Another thing is Gen AI is mostly for peaceful things, but some engineers, they can use the generative AI and other artificial intelligence for military purposes, for example. And Terminators, which 20 years ago was a science fiction character, now became a reality. That again, I told you that we don't know what data is used for training. So as soon as we start completely trust the answers of the ChatGPT, for example, the other model, this program actually could possibly slightly change the facts in the past and actually transform our knowledge, transform the history, change the history the way the creator of the model wanted to do. Again, it was very nice example. Then try to generate a picture of, I don't know, some Mongolian invaders into Europe, and this program actually draw a picture, not the typical Mongolian person, but from other races, for example. But at that time, it wasn't true. And if you don't know the history, you believe that the Mongolians may be the real Mongolian or something like that. That's one of the examples. So I think, again, generative AI in general, it's a very nice feature. It brings us a lot of progress, a lot of potential, but we need to understand the potential risks associated with that. And again, manage with risk. If we can accept that, fine, we will use. If we can't accept the risk, we should use something else or create own large language model for own purposes. That's
Some scary thoughts there.
Yes, unfortunately, yes, but nonetheless, that is our future, and definitely generative AI and all of the artificial intelligence, it is our future, and I think we should take under control all of this Gen AI. And if you remember, Isaac Asimov created the 3 rules of robotics, and actually, these 3 rules of robotics can be and should be applied to generative AI in order to prevent Gen AI, I don't know, appliances or devices harm to humans.
Interesting. Thank you so much. You are absolutely right. We live in a world full of risk. You previously mentioned 2 specific risk cases where people really underestimate. Do you have any examples of that you can share?
Yes, I think I can. You maybe know, maybe not. It depends on the area, industry you're working in. Later this year, by the end of this year, the new legislation called Digital Operational Resilience Act, or DORA, will be mandatory for the financial organizations in Europe and the UK as well. This is a very good example of right risk management approach, as I should say. The DORA is aims to ensure that financial companies, financial organizations can withstand, respond to, and recover from all typical ICT-related threats and disruptions. More importantly, it's applying not only to the banks, for example, or exchanges, but to the 2nd and 3rd tier suppliers of this organization. So the legislation extends the risk management procedure not only to one organization, but the whole supply chain. It means that all suppliers must comply with DORA. It means that the whole industry became more resilient to different risks. which is very good example of that approach, because previously legislations applied only for the industry itself and never touched the supply chain. But again, recent attacks on supply chain shows that the weakest link not the organizations in this sector, but in any sector, but the supply chain. There are dozens of different examples of such an attacks, and this is the main trend in the threat landscape in the world. But back to DORA, I mentioned the risk management, but apart from that, they actually proclaimed that companies need to enhance security measures, again, which is very nice because they actually deal with our money as a customers, and I don't want to lose my money because some organizations or financial organization was hacked. Again, incident response, that's also very important. We as a society, as a customers, should be aware of any incidents happening within the financial sectors. I mentioned third-party oversight. That's an obligation of the financial organization to oversight the suppliers. And testing, resilience testing, and some changes in terms of procedures. So it's a pretty big and all-rounded legislation. And as far as I'm aware, financial organizations, they're very key and they're working very hard in order to implement such a legislation and all of the measures prescribed by this legislation. As I said, that I think that's a very good example of risk management approach to the ICT related.
Great. Thank you so much for your insights and for your time today, Andrey. You're right, in a world that's ever evolving, it's imperative that we keep up with change. And if any of our listeners have any other questions regarding the topics covered today, then please feel free to reach out to Andrey on LinkedIn. Thank you so much, Andrey.
Thank you, Kim.